At Palm Tree, we're not just about numbers and strategies in M&A advisory. We're also about culture, and we're proud of ours, built on collaboration, development, and community. One of our cornerstone core values, a value that speaks to the type of environment fostered here at Palm Tree, is stay frosty. Stay frosty means not being afraid of rolling up your sleeves to do the hard work. It means taking care of yourself so you can show up when it really matters. It means having ice in your veins when the pressure is on, and also knowing how to let down your hair and have some fun. If you picture yourself as a stay frosty type of person, and you are seeking more than just a job, but a place where you can truly grow your career and your M&A skill set, reach out and inquire about opportunities at Palm Tree. There is a link in this episode's show notes where you can learn more and apply.
Consulting Case Frameworks mistakes. Goodness gracious, have we seen the gamut of these? There are so many mistakes you can make when building a case framework. So in this episode, I'm going to share a few of the most common mistakes that we see. I'm going to share our recommended process for building an amazing case framework every single time. And we'll share a resource at the end that's free on consulting frameworks. Let's dive in. First of all, one of the most common mistakes that we see for consulting case frameworks is copy pasting frameworks. Using a generic framework to solve a problem is a cue to the interviewer that you have absolutely no business concept mastery. Instead, it's essential that you walk through a framework that is tailored to each specific problem. Let me give you an example here of what you could do wrong. Let's say I read out a problem about a clothing manufacturer who is experiencing a decline in profitability, and you copy and pasted a profitability framework without tailoring any of the data and any of the information that was specific to the problem at hand. If you did that, I would understand that you had no mastery of how profitability is actually calculated and the levers that you would need to pull in order to effectively change the profitability of a client, such as the clothing manufacturer. Number two, people take too little time to build their structures. This might come as a surprise to you. You would think that often it would be people taking too much time to build their structures and interviewers getting impatient and moving them along, but that's not what happens. Instead, it's people who take too little time that build weak structures that aren't useful to solve the case, and structures that have no sub-thought in them that can really articulate the tailor-made process to the case. So if people take too little time, whether they didn't time themselves because they didn't know to, or they didn't time themselves because they were nervous to find out what the timer said, or they didn't time themselves because they weren't sure exactly what the time needed to be. Hint, hint, it's 2 minutes to build your structure. In that situation, we have a problem where somebody doesn't know what is needed and they're not able to share what's expected. You need to take the full 2 expected minutes to build out an amazing structure. The third problem you could have is building generic data points inside your structure. A lot of people have challenges with this one in particular, and it's a kind of an easy solve because you and I have both been consumers. We often don't think in data, but we can be very easily trained to think this way. Let me give an example. If I was using the profitability framework, I could put under price, I could put customers. That doesn't really tell me a lot about the specific data that I would look for inside the case. If instead I said percentage of customers that receive a discount, that would be a much more clear way for me to articulate the specific data I was looking for. This has the added benefit that in later parts of the case, you're able to really flow through exactly what your structure says all the way to application. For example, when you get to the math questions and they say, what data would you like? You know exactly which data you're looking for, and you're already thinking in the specific terms. But it has another added benefit as well, which is that when you present your framework, it builds your credibility inside the case.
Hey, Strategy Simplified, it's Japheth here, and I'm quickly popping in to tell you about Strategy Sprint. Strategy Sprint is a week-long virtual consulting project that allows you to add US-based work experience to your resume. So you work in a small team you get mentored by a former McKinsey, Bain, or BCG consultant, and you solve a strategic growth issue for a real-world client. So that means you gain incredible skills and experience that looks amazing on your resume. We are running several sprint projects throughout this year. Check out the dates and the link to register at the link in this episode's show notes. We look forward to welcoming you to a future strategy sprint project.
Finally, a key framework problem that people have is that the order that they think through their framework is the order that they write it on the paper. That's fine. The problem comes in when that's the order that you read it out in the interview, when it's not the order that you would use to solve the actual problem. What you need to do instead is prioritize your framework, taking 10 seconds at the end of building it before you present it to think through what's the first category that you think should be presented, which one do you think is most important, and what should the order be if given unlimited time that you would use to try to solve the problem as fast as you can. After all, speed later inside the interview is incredibly important. Now, let me share a little bit about Management Consulted's process to fix these structure and framework issues. First, you need a baseline of basic business information. And if you're not getting that because you're in a business degree or business classes or you haven't had business experience, then you will need to go get that business information. You can do it by working through one of our courses, such as the Business Basics course. You can read industry primers. You can get up to speed on business basics in the general media, but there are many different ways that you can pursue business education. You can also work with a coach at Management Consulted, and they can test you on business concepts. If you've never walked through a basic business education, then that's the first step to solving great frameworks. The second thing that you need to do is make sure that you understand the basic frameworks. And by understand, I don't mean that you read them once. I mean that you can apply them to problems that are specific to different industries, but the same common business problem. We have 4 major frameworks that we recommend that you learn, and working through these frameworks are some of the keys to the building blocks for any other case you would need to know. Third, we recommend that you practice applying frameworks using our 4x3 method. 4 boxes at the top of your page, titles of categories, and 3 data points per category. And that you do each one with a timer so that you can ensure that your 4x3 is not just complete, but also complete within the allotted expected amount of time. And number 4, you can work with someone on your structuring process. And here is one of the major insights that we've had that really skyrocketed Management Consulted to the leader in this industry. We identified that people who were bad at structure did not need to repeat cases. They needed to repeat structures. So we built structure drills that will help people unlock what they're not good at in structure and have applied out loud access, both to create their structures and to present them. Frameworks are an awesome beginning point for case interviews, but they will never get you the offer unless you have tailored them to a specific firm, to specific business problems, to specific data, and to specific insights. If you need help building your structures and going from A to Z, start with our Case Frameworks Guide. But many of you probably would prefer to work with somebody out loud, and our Black Belt program is the perfect place to get started. Thanks so much for listening.